Put a ring on it. Cheathab Season 1, Episode 2 Review, Ex Appeal, the exes have entered the chat. Spoiler alert. This review discusses major moments from Season 1, Episode 2 of Put a Ring on It, Cheathab. If Episode 1 was the appetizer, Episode 2 said, "Oh, you thought we were here to heal relationships?" Absolutely not. Tears of joy. Put a ring on it. Cheathab returned with Season 1, Episode 2, appropriately titled, Ex Appeal, and the experiment immediately became messier. This time, the women get their turn to revisit the men they previously cheated with. And let's just say, some exes apparently don't believe in staying in the past. The episode aired August 7, 2026, and the official synopsis makes the assignment very clear. The women revisit their past relationships through dates with the men they cheated with. Dominique's date arrives dressed in an unusual way, Mia gets serenaded, and Mimi takes things to another level by bringing her date home. And that last part, ma'am, sir, everybody, why are we bringing the ex home? The women get their turn. Episode 2 flips the experiment from the previous installment. Now it's the women's turn to face their past decisions. That's where this show gets uncomfortable, in the best reality TV way. The whole concept is already wild. You're in a relationship, you're trying to decide whether marriage is the next step, and the relationship expert essentially says, let's see what happens when you date somebody else. Most couples would probably say, absolutely not. These couples said, roll the cameras. And that's how we ended up here. The women aren't simply going on random dates. They're being asked to reconnect with people connected to their own cheating history. That's not a date. That's an emotional grenade with dinner reservations. Dominique's date walks in and confusion immediately follows. Dominique's date definitely wasn't giving quiet, casual coffee. His unusual attire immediately became one of the episode's memorable moments. And honestly, this is exactly the kind of thing reality television producers dream about. You can almost hear the producers backstage. Is everybody ready? Yep. Cameras? Yep. Drama? Already scheduled. Tears of joy. But underneath the visual shock is a bigger question. What happens when somebody from your past walks back into your present? That's the real experiment. It's easy to say you've moved on when the person is nowhere around. It's completely different when they're sitting across from you, smiling, flirting, and reminding you why you were attracted to them in the first place. That's where boundaries get tested. Mia gets serenaded. Then there's Mia. Mia's date comes with a little romance, including a serenade. And listen, a serenade, in a relationship experiment where everybody is already supposed to be questioning their feelings. That's dangerous. Because romance doesn't need much help. Give somebody flowers, music, compliments, eye contact and a little nostalgia, and suddenly they're sitting there thinking about every bad decision they've ever made. The problem with an ex, or somebody from your romantic past, is that they already know what buttons to push. A stranger has to learn your personality. An ex already has the cheat codes. That's why these dates feel so much more intense than ordinary dating. Mimi said, why stop at the date? And then Mimi, oh, Mimi, just when you think everybody is going to go home after their date and process their feelings like responsible adults. Mimi brings her date home. The house, girl, tears of joy, tears of joy, tears of joy. This is where the episode officially crossed from relationship experiment into reality TV survival mode. Because bringing the person you cheated with into the shared environment where your current partner is supposed to feel secure. That's not just opening the door. That's opening Pandora's box, throwing the box in the living room, and then asking everybody to sit down. The official episode description specifically highlights Mimi bringing her date home and stirring up drama. And you already know the cameras weren't about to miss that. The real problem isn't the date. Here's where I think the episode gets interesting beyond the mess. The dates aren't necessarily the biggest problem. The biggest problem is what the dates reveal about the existing relationships. If you're happy, secure, and confident in your relationship, does a date with somebody from your past really threaten everything? Maybe, but if there are already cracks in the foundation, this experiment is going to expose every single one. That's why Cheathab feels different from a typical dating show. This isn't really about finding a new boyfriend or girlfriend. It's about figuring out whether the relationship you're already in can survive the truth. And apparently, the truth has a reservation for two. Somebody needs to explain the rules again. I also have to say this. I would need Drive, Stassi to sit everybody down with a giant whiteboard. Because the boundaries are getting confusing. You're dating somebody else. You're reconnecting with somebody you cheated with. You're supposed to be evaluating your relationship. And now somebody is bringing their date home. At what point do we stop calling this a relationship experiment and start calling it relationship Hunger Games? Tears of joy. The couples are basically being asked to confront temptation while cameras are rolling. That's a lot emotionally, but that's also what makes the show addictive. The jealousy is practically a cast member. Jealousy is sitting at the table every episode. It doesn't need a microphone. It doesn't need a producer. It doesn't need a confessional. Jealousy is already employed full-time. And episode 2 gives it plenty of material. Imagine watching your partner go on a date with someone they previously cheated with. Now imagine that person making them laugh. Now imagine them getting serenaded. Now imagine somebody bringing their date back to the house. Yeah, I'm going to need everybody to breathe. Because this isn't exactly couples therapy anymore. What the episode is really saying about trust. The biggest theme in episode 2 is trust. Cheating doesn't just hurt because of the act itself. It creates questions. Who was that person? How long did it last? What did they talk about? Did you have feelings? Would you do it again? Are you actually over them? And perhaps the biggest question. Can I believe you now? Those questions don't disappear simply because the cheating happened in the past. And the experiment is deliberately forcing the couples to confront those questions. That's uncomfortable, but it's necessary if the goal is actually to determine whether marriage makes sense. Because putting a ring on a relationship that's already unstable doesn't magically fix it. It just gives the instability jewelry. The exes are the wild cards. The most fascinating part of the episode is how unpredictable the exes are. An ex doesn't have the same emotional investment as the current partner. They can walk in, flirt, compliment somebody and walk back out. Meanwhile, the current partner is sitting somewhere thinking, wait a minute, and that's when the facial expressions start doing more talking than the dialogue. Reality TV viewers know those looks. The long stare, the forced smile, the deep breath, the, I'm fine. Nobody who says, I'm fine, on reality television is fine. Nobody. This is where the experiment gets messy. Let's be honest, mess is the engine of this show. But there's a difference between pointless mess and revealing mess. Episode 2 gives us the second kind. The dates aren't simply there for entertainment. They're showing the couples what happens when old feelings, attraction, insecurity and unfinished business are brought back into the room. And Mimi bringing her date home takes that tension to another level. It raises the obvious question. Where should the boundaries be? Because just because the experiment allows something doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy for the relationship. That's something the couples are going to have to figure out for themselves. My biggest question after episode 2. Are these couples actually trying to repair their relationships? Or are they trying to find a reason to leave? Because those are two completely different journeys. If somebody secretly wants out, this experiment could give them the perfect excuse. See, I knew we weren't supposed to be together. But if somebody genuinely wants the relationship, the experiment could force them to confront the behavior that caused the problems in the first place. That's why I don't think the biggest question is, who is going to cheat? The bigger question is, who is actually ready to change? The drama is just getting started. And if episode 2 is any indication, we're nowhere near the emotional explosion yet. The season description for episode 3, In Love with Two Women, teases even more complicated situations. The women continue dating outside their relationships while the couples confront exes face to face. The episode also teases one man admitting he still loves his ex, Mia regretting a major decision, and Dominique losing her temper when confronted with someone from Travis's past. So basically, we haven't even reached the neighborhood where the mess lives. We're still driving there. Tears of joy. Final review. Episode rating. 9/10 for drama, mess and uncomfortable relationship conversations. Ex appeal. Delivers exactly what the title promises. The women revisit their pasts. Old connections are brought back to life. Mia gets serenaded. Dominique's date makes an entrance nobody is going to forget. And Mimi brings her date home, because apparently peace was not on the guest list. But underneath all the drama, the episode asks some serious questions about trust, forgiveness, temptation and whether people can genuinely move forward after infidelity. That's what makes Put a Ring on It, Cheathab more than just another dating experiment. The show isn't asking, can you find somebody better? It's asking, can you finally be honest about whether the person you're with is really the person you want to marry? And honey, that's a question some people would rather answer in court than on television. Because once those old flames start walking through the door, the truth doesn't need an invitation. It just walks right in. What do you think? Was Mimi bringing her date home doing way too much, or was she simply following the rules of the experiment? Do you think dating someone you previously cheated with can actually help repair a relationship? And most importantly, would you agree to participate in this experiment if you were in a serious relationship? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I know the comments are about to be messy. Eyes fire. Like this review, share it with your reality TV crew, and follow for more episode recaps, shady commentary, relationship drama and all the reality TV mess you can handle. Hashtag put a ring on it. Hashtag put a ring on it. Cheathab. Hashtag Cheathab. Hashtag own. Hashtag reality TV. Hashtag reality TV drama. Hashtag reality TV recap. Episode 2. Hashtag EX appeal. Hashtag relationship drama. Hashtag reality TV gossip. Hashtag reality TV fans.